Is it a pretty decent season, an all-SWAC season, or is it the player of the year? I'm trying to figure out what is Travis Hunter's ceiling as a freshman. Oh, yeah, it's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor. Thank you for going on this journey with me, making Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day. Every day, we are officially back to 5 episodes a week. As football season kicks in and gears up, we're about to get to football action in less than a month, right? Week 0 is at the end of this month, so we are here every day, Monday through Friday. And make sure that you remember, just because the mic cuts off, the journey is not over. You can find me on Twitter at South Exclusives, and I wanted to kick this off with a bang. And this is something I was very excited about. And it's the question of what is Travis Hunter's ceiling as a freshman and how does he achieve it? To me, his ceiling as a freshman, and this is going to sound monstrous and like, whoa, his ceiling as a freshman is the Deacon Jones Award winner for the most outstanding player in Black college football. Yes, I think that his true ceiling is being regarded as the best college football player or best Black college football player. Now, before you say, hold on, man, that's a little too much, a little too soon, I'm going to tell you this. We have to remember that we are talking about the number 1 overall recruit in the country. Most of those players that achieve that status are up at your biggest schools. Travis Hunter is at an FCS program. This is an unprecedented situation, so we're dealing with some unprecedented expectations. I understand that there's going to be a bit of an adjustment that comes with him going to the FCS or just going to the collegiate level, period. But I think if you're talking about the ceiling, everything goes right, everything is perfect for him, I do see a path to him being the Deacon Jones Award winner. And these are big shoes. These are big shoes. How does he go about it, though? How does he actually achieve this goal? Well, number one, you have to be a lockdown corner. That's the first thing that Travis Hunter has to do if he wants to be regarded as the Deacon Jones Award winner. It's not even all about being the best player, right? Because this is essentially like the MVP, but we're going to get into that in a little bit. I almost got ahead of myself. He has to be a lockdown corner, though. I've abandoned this idea that he's barely going to play offense. I've abandoned that. However, until proven otherwise, I am still going to operate as if cornerback is his main position. That's what I hear. Even with the chatter, cornerback seems to be his main position. So with that being the case, you got to take care of the main thing first. And you got to be a lockdown corner. You have to be an absolute shutdown corner. People are going to try Travis Hunter. People should try Travis Hunter. Let's not get the two, separated. They are going to, and they should. This is a kid who is coming up from high school. We got to see what he's about. I understand he's the number 1 recruit in the nation, but if I'm coming at him from an opponent standpoint, I'm from a media standpoint. So I'm going to give him his respect immediately because I do believe he has that type of talent. But if I'm an opponent and I'm game planning, you're going to have to show me. You are going to have to show me that you should be regarded as a lockdown corner that I need to avoid. Hopefully, as the season goes on, for this case, at least, hopefully as the season goes on, people start avoiding him. People start saying, we don't want to test 12. That's what I need to start happening. In addition to that, you're going to need some turnover production. Let's remember, we're talking about a majorly defensive player winning the player of the year. That's tall. That's a tall task. You're going to need some turnover production, a couple of interceptions, because people are going to start avoiding you as a lockdown corner. You're not going to have a bunch of picks. It's just not likely you're going to have a lot of interceptions. Jacoby Durant didn't have a lot of interceptions. It's about being locked down and changing the game and essentially taking off either one receiver or one side of the field. That's the main thing. I guess the same could be said for being defensive player of the year, but I just don't think he's going to get that personally. I just do not think that defensive player of the year is in his freshman future. I still got Isaiah Land, maybe even Jordan Lewis mixing in there. So that's what I'm still looking at on that side of things. But in addition to being a lockdown corner and taking care of the main thing, like I said, I've abandoned this idea that he's barely going to play wide receiver. He needs to be an impactful wide receiver. Being a lockdown corner is being an impactful defensive player. He needs to have an impactful offensive season. I'm thinking 650 yards, 600 yards, maybe that's 60 yards per game-ish. At 600, he would have been 11th in the league last year. At 650, I think he would have been 10 or 9. So if you're top 10 in receiving yards, maybe give me 5 to 7, 5 to 8 touchdowns in whatever format, whether that's interceptions returned, fumble recoveries returned, whether that's pass catches, whether that's rushes on like end arounds and things like that. Give me 5 to 8 touchdowns. So now you're looking at a lockdown corner who has a decent amount, maybe even top 10 in the conference amount of yards, and then also gives you a lot of touchdowns. Turnover production, lockdown play, touchdown, and yards on the offensive side of the ball. This is the recipe for me to being the Deacon Jones Award winner, because I don't think he'll be the best defensive player. He might not even be the best cornerback in the SWAC. But if he can balance that out by being a dynamic offensive threat, an impactful two-way player, which is what we've seen in his overall in his spring game, if he can do that, then we're looking at a player who has at least a case for being that. Because how many players are actually doing it? Not many. Not many. If I'm an impact offense, an impact defensive player, I'm making my case for having the best season in Black college football. I think that is legitimate, and I think that is the path. So I have a couple of requests from you as the listener. One, do you think that it's reasonable for him to be a lockdown corner, get about 600, 650 yards on the season, which is only about 60 a game? Just want to bring that up, and you can always go over. It just averages out to about 60 to 65 a game. And then also have a nice amount of touchdowns. Lockdown, turnover production, touchdowns, and then also yardage. I know it's a lot, but do you think that it's reasonable? And then also, if you think it's reasonable or not, is that enough to actually get him Deacon Jones Award consideration and actually pull in the victory for him? So I want to know if you think he can live up to those standards as a freshman. And then also I want to know if those standards in your mind would earn him the trophy. So let me know that in the comments below, and then also on Twitter at South Exclusives. Going forward, we're going to talk about the history of how number 1 overall recruits in the country have performed as a freshman, liken that back to Travis Hunter, and then also what is the history of Deacon Jones Award winners. Before we get into that, however, I want to tell you about LinkedIn Jobs, because small business owners rave about this. If you are a small business owner and you haven't got on LinkedIn, what are we doing? What are we doing? Because if you want to contact the people that you want to work for you faster than any other place, LinkedIn is where you want to be. If you don't want to sit through all of these interviews that don't really fit what you want, but you have to listen because you didn't know that, then hey, maybe LinkedIn ain't the place for you. But if you want to avoid that process, this tedious process where you're sitting there and just questioning people, and you actually get to talk to those who you know fit your company, LinkedIn is the place to be. I love LinkedIn for that. And I know people on both sides of the coin who have found people to work for them and then also have found jobs to work at through LinkedIn. It's phenomenal. Make sure that you are using the hashtag hiring frame. It should pop up in purple. And remember, you can find all the candidates that you want to talk to faster. And every week, 40 million people go on LinkedIn. You can visit them and post your job for free at linkedin.com/college. That's linkedin.com/college. Terms and conditions do apply. We keep on rolling on today's episode of Locked on HBCU, and I thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Every day in today's word of the day is eminently meaning to a high degree or very, right? And I want to talk about the history of number one overall recruits and what do they look like in their freshman year in general. We don't know what Travis Hunter is going to look like in his freshman year, other than the fact that he's going to be wearing a Jackson State jersey. That's about the only thing that we truly know. So, because we can't predict the future fully, let's look back at the past and try to help ourselves predict that future. Now, I'm going based off of 24/7 Sports. Everybody has their own rankings. So I want to announce which one I'm going by so that you know that guy wasn't the first overall. Well, on 24/7 he was. So I'm going to go through for the last 5 years and just look at what their freshman year production was. So in 2021, and mind you, I want to continue talking. This is players going to the FBS level. It is different. They're going against more highly recruited talent. You are going against different players, but still, it's all about the experiment and seeing how they adjust to the increase or the difference in level from the high school game. Now, in 2021, Quinn Ewers was the actual number one overall recruit in the country. He didn't play. He sat behind CJ Stroud at Ohio State. He's the guy with the mullet who left high school to get the bag at Ohio State. It succeeded for him. Now he's at Texas. And I get to hear my guy Jonathan Davis on Locked on Longhorns, and hopefully you get to hear that as well. Talk about Quinn Ewers next year. Not because I'm rooting for Texas. Believe I'm not, but that's my guy John. So we rocking with him. Now, 2020, Brian Breesy, defensive tackle, Clemson. Instant impact player. Shout out my guy Reek, big Clemson fan, right? Big Clemson fan, or excuse me, big impact player from a defensive tackle position in 2020. He and a couple of his teammates who, man, they had a phenomenal freshman defensive line, but all three of them tied to get third most all time or third most sacks from a freshman in Clemson history. Not all time, of course, but in their freshman year, they all have 4 sacks. So you're looking at players, and from a defensive tackle position, that's major. In addition to that, he also was first in sacks amongst all first-year FBS defensive tackles. So that goes for true freshmen, redshirt freshmen, transfers from the D2 level, JUCO guys. All those players included, Breesy was number one. He also had a forced fumble. He had 6.5 tackles for a loss, 2 pass breakups, a safety. Breesy was phenomenal. He was an impact player from the moment that he stepped on Clemson's campus. Now you go to 2019, you had, and then also in addition to that, just to cap it all off, he was the ACC Defensive Rookie of the Year. In 2019, you had Nolan Smith, defensive end for Georgia. To me, he didn't have the impact that everybody else has statistically. He was fourth in pressures, but I just didn't feel as if he put it all the way together on paper, on stats, right? We're just looking back at statistics. We're not even looking at game film. So there's things that he could have done to impact the game that just don't pop up on the stat sheet. Those pressures could have led to interceptions. Then in 2018, you had Clemson again. Shout out my boy Reek. Trevor Lawrence, Sunshine. We know him. He won a national championship his first year in college. Enough said. I don't really think there's anything else to discuss there. We're not even talking about the totality of his career. We're talking about the fact that as a freshman, he came in and led a national championship team. Beat Bama, too. 2017, you had Jalen Phillips at defensive end at UCLA, who actually was fourth on the team in tackles for a loss. It's funny because he became a pass rush specialist. At least that's how I think of him when his time at University of Miami. So it's kind of funny that in his freshman year, he was able to stand out for tackles for a loss. He's always been a disruptor. That's an impact. To me, let's take Quinn Ewers out because he's in a weird spot. You look at the other 4, that is 3 out of the 4 who made big-time impacts as a freshman. And I don't even know Nolan Smith because I didn't get to see the film. It's not just up here where I'm just thinking, oh, yeah, I know what Nolan Smith did, even aside from the stats. But 3 out of 4 made a really big impact. So that tells me that number one overall recruits in the country historically have had an easier time transitioning as a freshman. That bodes extremely well for Travis Hunter. And mind you, they did it on the FBS level. Now, let's go look at the history of your Deacon Jones Award winners. It's not an award with a long history. So when you look at the Deacon Jones Award winners, it only goes back to 2016. You had Tariq Cohen, who won in 2016. In 2017 and 18, you had Amir Hall, quarterback from Bowie State, the only D2 winner. Then you had 2019 was won by wide receiver Chris Rowland from Tennessee State, who had a really great year, right? And then in 2021, both spring and fall, because 2020 didn't happen, and you had that spring season in 2021, you're looking at Aqeel Glass as another two-time winner. When you're looking at the Deacon Jones Award, it's won by quarterbacks 4 seasons. 2 of them had 2 seasons apiece. But every single player who has won this award has been an offensive player. So that tells me if Travis Hunter wants any kind of chance, if Travis Hunter wants to be the Deacon Jones Award winner, then he has to, and I mean absolutely has to, be a two-way impact player, because that creates and has the same sort of value as being a quarterback. That's the key. When you look at all the Deacon Jones Award winners, and they're all offensive players, and Travis Hunter, who is a defensive player by trade, and we're talking about him winning the award, he needs to make the impact on offense that we believe that he can. He has to be a two-way player. There's no other way around it. If he does that, I think he legitimately has a shot. I think he truly does have a shot. And when we look at the history of number 1 overall recruits in their transition into college being fairly smooth, I think that this is a real shot that he can live up to what his talent is very quickly. Now, going forward, I want to talk about some other freshmen who aren't named Travis Hunter, who could win SWAC Freshman of the Year. Yes, I know. But I think that if his talent is so great, and we're just already kind of writing it in pen that he's going to win Freshman of the Year, that's boring. Let's talk about some of the other players who could win this award. But before I do that, I want to tell you about BetOnline, because BetOnline is the best place for all of your sports wagering. The NFL is back. I am so happy the NFL is back. I don't care that it's preseason. I just like watching football. And every now and then you get a surprise like Josh Jacobs running 5-6 times in the Hall of Fame game. I love football. It's back. Put your money down on it. Go look at your favorite team's odds. They're over under on how many games that they're going to win, and put some money down. Put some money down on who you think is going to win the division, who you think is going to win each conference, who is going to win the Super Bowl. You can answer these questions to me, but put your money where your mouth is and put your money down at BetOnline. You can do the NBA futures, NHL, MLB, combat sports. Kamaru Usman, Arlington graduate. Let's be real. He graduated from Arlington Bowie, okay? We standing up for the city. He's going to be putting on a fight against Leon Edwards. The rematch August 20th. Put some money down on that as well. But there's only one place that you can do it and should do it, and that's BetOnline, where the game starts. We're wrapping up today's episode of Locked on HBCU, and we've discussed for 2 segments now just how eminently talented that Travis Hunter is. That's shown by the expectations that we're placing upon him. However, he's not the only person that description accurately applies to. There's some other really good freshmen in here, and I want to talk about them. I think that we're all acting as if, oh yeah, Travis Hunter, he's going to win Freshman of the Year, and that very well could be the case. He comes in with a lot of fanfare. He comes in with a lot of expectation. And honestly, this is his award to lose. I didn't give him Defensive Player of the Year. I think that's still going to be Land. I don't think he plays enough offense to win Offensive Player of the Year. Probably going to go to Shedeur Sanders, if anything, right? So I think the Freshman of the Year is kind of his award to win within the conference. But there's some other really good guys in here. Let's talk about somebody who could surprise you and steal that title away, because we're not going to make it a one-man race, because I genuinely do not believe that's what it is. And matter of fact, I'm going to start off and add another person to this race with his own teammate. Somebody who came in his recruiting class, was also an early enrollee, and that's Kevin Coleman. He's somebody who should be a bigger part of the passing game. I expect him to be in the offense more than Travis Hunter is. Who knows how the stats are going to add up. I could really see Hunter being the splash play guy. But Kevin Coleman, is another player who's really good. He deserves to be one of the faces of the influx of. Matter of fact, I think that the next two guys I name after Coleman as well. So Hunter, Kevin Coleman, and then also the next two guys I'm about to mention should be faces of the influx to HBCU talent from the influx of talent into HBCUs from the high school ranks. Kevin Coleman deserves to be one of those faces. In addition to the passing game, he also has that return game capability that we saw in the spring game where he actually returned a kick. Man, Deion Sanders was going crazy on his team after that. Now let's switch up from Jackson State. These are going to be the only two schools that I speak of, and everybody else I'm mentioning is going to be from those schools. I'm going to go with Ryan Peppins from Grambling. He's a player who Hugh Jackson called special. The mere mention of his name brought a smile to Mr. Jackson's face. This is a player who you take Hunter out of it. I don't know if there's a freshman that I've heard more great things about. I don't know if there's a freshman who I've heard more excitement about. Yard Talk, who was on this show, she said, who in the SWAC is guarding Ryan Peppins? This is a rookie that we're talking about, or a freshman that we're talking about. And you talking about KJ Kinsler. Who's covering him? It's a bold claim. I understand that she's a Grambling girl. I understand that Grambling is her alma mater. But even just saying that, it tells you the hype around Ryan Peppins, Mr. Football in Alabama. He actually enrolled as an early enrollee to Utah, seen the spring season, said, this ain't really for me, and left. He came to Grambling. He joined Hugh's team. Now, he has his teammate, Fajon Wilson from Lancaster, right? Y'all know I live in Texas, but that Lancaster, it's Lancaster to me. I know there's probably going to be somebody from Texas telling me I'm saying it wrong. I don't know. That's how I flow off my tongue, Lancaster, right? So whether you want to say Lancaster or Lancaster does not matter. I'm going to say the latter, of course, but doesn't matter. The guy's a baller. He was committed to Texas. He had an offer from Alabama. So he had some big-time schools after him. He told him, no, I'm going to go to Grambling. That's why I guess not really Peppins, because Peppins went to Utah first. And that's no disrespect to Peppins. His path was just different. So more so, Wilson, Coleman, Hunter, they should be some of the faces of this uptick and this upstart. I know Hunter's going to have the biggest face, but they should all be faces of guys who said no to these bigger schools coming out of high school and said, nah, we're not going to go to these Power 5 colleges that do want us. We're going to go to this HBCU, Grambling and Jackson State, respectfully. I love it. I love it. And he's a player who had him on their radar should be an indication of just how good this guy is coming out of high school. But if I had to pick one, it's not any of these three. It's Kajiya Hollawayne, quarterback from Grambling. And here's the reason, because it's hard for a wide receiver to win this type of award when your quarterback is up for it as well. What it takes is a Herculean effort. One of those seasons where it's like, wow. But the only problem with that is, in addition to having Peppins, in addition to having Wilson, you're also going to have Tyson Bordeaux. There's 4 high-level freshmen who are going to be on this roster for Grambling. Now, Hollowayne is a redshirt freshman, but a freshman nonetheless. I truly do believe that it won't just be one receiver standing out. It'll be all of them having really good seasons. That's going to bring down the value of each one of them individually when it comes to this award, but it boosts up your quarterback. See, Peppins might not be able to win this award because Hollowayne or because Wilson had 1,000 yards. Wilson might not be able to win this award because Bordeaux had 1,000 yards. But if all three of them are just going crazy equally, your quarterback's going to benefit. And that's why I'm saying, in addition to also the value of the quarterback position, I think that Hollowayne should be neck and neck with Hunter. I think it's Hunter's award to lose. As a quarterback with so much talent in front of you as a freshman, I genuinely believe that, hey, he's set up for success and he's set up to be a freshman of the year candidate. Now, tomorrow's episode, we're going to be looking at the flip side of this. You look at both sides of the coin here on Locked on HBCU. You had, man, he could win the Deacon Jones Award. But now I want to talk about, are we putting too much expectations on Travis Hunter? So I appreciate you making us your first listen of the day. Every day, be back tomorrow. We are here 5 days a week. Now, for your second listen of the day, make sure you're checking out our conference shows, Locked on ACC, Locked on SEC, Locked on Big 12. Check them out. And in the meantime, in between time, if you're looking for me, you can find me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.